The showdown between Russia and NATO countries over Ukraine. While a whirlwind of diplomacy continues across Europe and in Washington, military tensions continuing to rise today. My co-anchor Terry Moran continues to remain on the scene for us in Ukraine. Terry, we're expecting the Ukrainians, along with Russia now, to start conducting these military exercises. So what can we read into that after all these diplomatic meetings?
You know, it does raise the military tension here. We've seen the diplomatic activity with that whirlwind shuttle diplomacy led by President Emmanuel Macron of France. So it's calm for a day or two, right in time for both Russia and Ukraine to hold these major military exercises. And there's two things they're doing. Part of it is, the Ukrainian government keeps saying this is an information war at this point. It's Russia trying to intimidate the West, and we have to respond. And they are putting into the field, the Ukrainians are, a major military exercise where Ukrainian soldiers will be drilled in the use of those armed drones and anti-tank weapons provided to Ukraine by the United States and by other NATO allies. And so they're out in the field with these weapons that make the Russians very angry, frankly. But they are preparing, they say, for a crisis situation, for an invasion right across the border. In Belarus, which is just north of Ukraine, there will be large Russian-Belarus joint exercises. Down in the Black Sea, there are ships continuing to steam in, sort of clogging up commercial traffic down there, almost as if blocking some of the Black Sea area down there. There are concerns about that. And so part of it is this soft power. We've got big guns too. We can intimidate you too. Of course, they can't here, the Ukrainians. But part of it is also they have now forces in the field, both sides, right across the border, in case something does touch off.
All right, and with all that happening, President Biden continuing to warn Americans to get out of the country. But you talked to one American who's just refusing to leave.
Well, what do you say to Americans who look at you and think, that guy's crazy? You know, why would you be in Ukraine at this time?
Well, imagine they have a life that they like in, I don't know, Chicago or New York or something, and then someone says, you have to leave the whole United States. You have to go somewhere else because the United States might get invaded. I don't know. That would be hard. It's hard to leave your life. Like, obviously, if there's an actual war, I'll leave, okay? I'm not going to live in a war zone. But in advance of that, it's hard to leave.
You're prepared if worst comes to worst. How so?
Well, I mean, if worst really comes to worst, it's, like, impossible to be prepared enough for, like, a blitzkrieg attack, right? But if there's just, like, I don't know, some supply lines get cut and it gets hard to, get food or water. I have food and water stocked up in my apartment. I have cash in case I need to, buy a plane ticket.
So that's Aaron Starr is his name, 25 years old. He's from Napa, California. His mom and dad are worried sick about him, as you might understand, as are other members of the family. His aunt keeps sending him news clippings. But he's got a life here, as he just said. He's been here. He came here as a teacher. He went back to finish his master's. Now he's teaching, and he's working in a marketing capacity, essentially help training up young Ukrainian marketers on how best practices work in the United States. And he's got a Ukrainian girlfriend. His heart is here. This is his life now. And I think what you hear from Aaron there is what you hear from most expats, Americans and others. They feel like this is their home. They don't want to give it up, and they don't see the need to right now. Now, that is a tricky judgment, isn't it? At that last question, he answered, what if it does, worst comes to worst? Well, if worst does come to worst, we're all hunkering down here. But I think he feels, and most others feel, that we aren't there yet, and that probably is not going to be what happens. The sense here is that this is part of this big chessboard, this big game of hard power brought to the brink of use in order to get what Vladimir Putin wants. It is a risk. It is something that, as I say, people who love Aaron, and he seems like a very good young man, nice young man, he's my daughter's age, are concerned for him, but he's an adult, and this is the decision he's made. I think his heart is here, his life is here, and he's going to stay here if he can.
I mean, you You really bring to light, from afar, over the pond, Terry, we're covering the politics. We're talking about the military side of things. We're seeing weapons and military action. But we have to remember there are, regular people from all over the world living there, working and conducting their lives. And we can't forget that there's quite a duality that we need to pay attention to and listen to. And so you put that in perspective. It's interesting. There you were, sitting on the streets, having a coffee, having this conversation. It really humanizes what's happening here.
Well, it does, and it was a pleasure meeting him and being in Kyiv. I've been here a few times. I was here during the revolution back in 2014 when they threw out the Russian-backed dictator here. It's a splendid city. It's gotten much more prosperous in 8 years. All those expats that we're talking about, this is a city that wants to be a world city in its way. People love it here. The cost of living is fantastic for Europe, for anywhere. That's one of the things that Aaron told us. He's here because you can have a good apartment, a good life at a fraction of the cost that you could in London or Paris or other places in Europe. And the people are very welcoming, very down-to-earth people, Ukrainians. They aren't real smiley when you meet them. Sometimes I think they think Americans smile so much, maybe they think that we're dumb or something like that. But they're very decent, down-to-earth people. Not a lot of airs put on among the Ukrainians. And they have a large expat community. There was this remarkable protest over the weekend of several hundred, maybe a couple thousand expats, many of them carrying the flag of their own nation. So you saw this rainbow of flags, many Americans, but Irish flags, Italian flags, lots of people here marching in support of Ukraine. The people who have come here to live love it. They don't want to leave, and they certainly don't want to see it attacked by Russia.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.